Give motivation.
Hello, everyone. Master from New York University. She has been restaurant owner, bar owner, deputy mayor, secretary of transportation for Atlanta, and ITE president, ASE president now. So she experienced the leadership in private industry, public agency, all kinds of things, right? So that's amazing. And our second speaker is Bruce Hodors. Bruce has been the PacTrans technology transfer advisor for many years, and he's known by having Transport Group. And Transport Group hires a lot of the UW students every year. So, and certainly we appreciate transport support, and from the industry perspective, he would contribute a lot. I know Bruce graduated from UC Berkeley, and there may be a bunch of other things, he could share with you today. And given the time constraint, I'll just make this brief. And the third speaker is Eva Lerner-Lam. She's been a great mentor with me, and she is also a business owner, and also has done a lot of work in different things. Eva was the founding president of the Transportation and the Development Institute at the ASCE. And her leadership also extends to many other fields. She got her bachelor also from Princeton, master from MIT, and both Masha and Eva are members of the National Academy of Engineering. So let's welcome our speakers. Following our arrangement, we invited Masha to do a vision share about the future of civil engineering, and also her personal experiences on the leadership path, and then followed by Bruce to share his experience of leadership from the industry perspective, what kind of skills are needed for our future employees, and then Eva will share her vision and her vision about the future transportation and her personal experience about all these things. Now, I would like to invite Masha to come to share her experience. And Masha, we need both. This is for webinar, this is for the local room.
Okay. Hello to everybody out in webinar land. Thank you all for being here, for giving me this opportunity. I am going to run through my slides as quickly as I can because the questions that you posed are such great questions that I really want to get there. So, tell you, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I've had the great good fortune to travel and to live in many other places. And I think that experience has made me stronger, not being afraid to go other places and do things that are not traditional. A little bit about my family. So I have 3 bio kids. I have 3 bonus kids, a bunch of in-law kids. I have now 3 grandchildren and 3 bonus grandkids. So a lot of what I do now, I bring this up mostly because what I want to point out to you is that, you know, when we talk about infrastructure, when we talk about transportation and planning, and we're planning for the future, we're not planning for next week or next year. What I am working on now, what you are working on now, you are imagining and ultimately building the infrastructure that my grandchildren and their children will enjoy, because infrastructure lasts 50 to 100 years. So what you're doing, what you're learning, what you're imagining is so important, and recognizing what that future looks like is critically important, because it is a very different future than the one that I was planning for when I was at the beginning of my career. When we talk about leadership, it is not just about a job. It is not, of course, I'm going to say it's not just about ASCE or ITE or an organization like that. There are so many other ways in which you can get leadership experience, and different things resonate with different people. So I have had the great good fortune, Dr. Wang alluded, I was an elected official for 16 years. So I not only served my community by working on transportation projects and making a mean panini in my restaurant, but also, serving on the city council in my little city, where when I joined, we were right at the beginning of a journey to completely transform our downtown. We didn't have a gathering place. We didn't have any kind of environment where community could come together. And so I got to be part of the conversations, the outreach to the rest of the community, all the dialogue, all the planning, all of the development, and ultimate fortunate success that came with working as part of that team. So my journey in ASCE, very, very long time ago. Before ASCE had our technical institutes, we were structured like many other organizations where we had some local and regional activities, and then we had a whole bunch of committees. And so my research through my first master's degree, several years of working, and into my second master's degree, was all about freight movement. And so ASCE had a committee called the Urban Goods Movement, so that was where I found my first home in ASCE. And then somewhere along the way, I had the chance to visit the ASCE headquarters. And you can't really see this picture very well, but it's a bunch of very old white men, most of whom have big bushy beards. And this was the leadership of ASCE for probably almost about 100 years. That's what ASCE leadership looked like. And even coming into modern times, it wasn't until 2004, now ASCE is getting ready to turn 175 years old next year. It was not until 2004 that ASCE had its first president who was not a man. So Pat Galloway was the first president, the first woman president of ASCE. So when I saw that, I thought, you know, people like me who have some leadership knowledge and experience and passion for the organization need to come together, not just to serve ourselves, but to encourage all the next gens to come to the party. But what really got me what really brought me to the table was that phone call. So I've known Eva for a very long time. We won't tell you how many years, but a very long time. So Eva called me up one day and she said, there's this new thing at ASCE. It's called the Transportation Development Institute, and you need to come and be part of it. You don't say no to Eva. So I did come, I did get to be part of it. I was very honored to follow in her footsteps many years later and be president of TNDI. It's a great restructuring of ASCE that now allows you to find not only your family in ASCE, your geographical family, but now you can find your technical family within ASCE very well. I mentioned, this is Pat Galloway. Pat not only was the first woman president, but she decided that we needed to tell the story of women in civil engineering. So she helped to organize and create the opportunity for a publication called Changing Our World, and I was very, very honored. I worked on an interesting project for the 1996 Olympic Games, and I was very honored to be included, to be allowed to tell my story. We each had, a little one-page spread about an important project that we got to work on. So as you get into your career, it's not working? Okay. As you get into your career, reach out for interesting opportunities. It's not all about sitting at a desk, crunching numbers or doing drawings. Get out, look around, engage with the environment, with the projects you're working on, engage with the community. It all matters in helping you to be the best civil engineer you can be, to have the most interesting career that you can have. So think about being that well-rounded person. We also get to influence things in a big way. So ASCE, how many of you have heard of the ASCE report card, the infrastructure report card? For those of you who don't know about it, I suggest that you look on the website and read about it. We do go ahead. All right. We as an organization do a report card just like you might get in school, A, B, C, D, E, F, hopefully not too many Fs. But we do a report card that looks at 18 different categories of infrastructure. And why do we bother doing that? Because we have to go to the legislature, whether it's at the federal level or the state level, and tell our story. Infrastructure is so important to every person every day of their lives, whether it's clean water, sanitary sewers, roads, transit, you name it. All of those different aspects of civil engineering are so important, of infrastructure are so important. It takes money, it takes funding to be able to build appropriate infrastructure. So we use the report card to go and tell that story to the legislators, most of whom have no technical knowledge at all. So we need to tell the story in a way that they will understand. Being actively engaged also gives you some interesting opportunities. I mentioned the book a little bit earlier, but I wanted to, and actually it's appropriate that it's here in Seattle. I'm going to tell you the story of the picture next to it. So the woman in the picture, I was very honored many, many years ago to win an award based on the company that I had created and grown from the Society of Women Engineers. But much more important than me getting an award, the woman standing next to me is a real live astronaut. I got to meet an astronaut. Her name is Bonnie Dunbar. She actually ran the Boeing Museum for many, many years. She's now teaching down in Texas. But she is the one who figured out, she's an engineer, figured out how to make glass that you use in a spaceship that can survive the takeoff, the travel, and the landing of spacecrafts. Brilliant woman, but such a great person with an amazing story of how she decided to follow her particular path. But when would a little kid from Brooklyn ever have the chance to meet a real live astronaut? Because I stepped out and I got involved. So Dr. Wang mentioned that I had the great honor in 1994 to serve as president of the Institute of Transportation Engineers. Those are my kids when they were very little, very, very little. And the picture on the other side is my family now, part of my family. They weren't all able to come. But at the ASCE convention, when I was sworn in as president, I was fortunate enough to have a lot of my family with me. That is part of how I've been able to have the career that I have, because I didn't put my family in one bucket and my career in another bucket. My family has been part of my journey all along. My children are well-traveled, because when I would go to meetings, many times, they would come with me. So you can have a great career and incorporate your family into that journey if you so choose. We don't have time. I'm not going to show you the video. I just want to tell you, so sustainability is a really big deal. And we in the civil engineering community are incorporating that more and more into the work we do. I bring up Austin, and you can probably look this video up on YouTube, but during a certain time of year, there are multiple millions of bats that live under the bridge in downtown Austin. And every night at dusk, they all come flying out. I don't know if this will play. Let's see if it'll play while I'm talking. Yeah, they all come flying out, and they fly around the whole area, and they eat up all the nasty little bugs. So if you ever want to eat outdoors at a restaurant, Austin's the best place because there are no bugs. So you can have a great dinner there.
Everybody has seen a bat, right?
Austin is a living area.
All right. I went back once and somebody said I didn't see one, so now I always do.
Working with TNDI, we did an event in Austin, and we used
So the
the whole
baby bats
city
are
as a
born
living
in June. The
laboratory.
mother bat actually, the mother bats can actually, as a group,
Tours to show some
time
of the
when
new
the birds
features that were being built. So it's really important that you get out and about and you experience other places and look at the infrastructure that's around you. Embrace it and be proud of it. Be so proud of it. Let's see what else we have here. There we go. All righty. I want to very quickly, I'm not going to talk for a long time because Eva's going to touch on some technology as well. But, ASCE and with a lot of leadership from Dr. Wang, we really have pivoted and we have a much sharper focus on technology in civil engineering. So if you're interested in technology, you also have a home in civil engineering. They're no longer two separate tracks. Digital infrastructure in managing water systems is much more commonly utilized now. It's growing in its importance to communities. ASCE, that was just one example I wanted to give you. ASCE has a digital platform called Megacity 2070. Most of you, I suspect, are probably gamers. So you have really good computers. You can download the software from the ASCE website, the Future World Vision software, and you can virtually interact with this future city to understand what it could be like. You can leave comments about, do you agree with this? Do you not agree with this? It's a great, interesting tool for you to look at. I don't think we have time to show the movie, but we have a star in our midst. Paul, would you stand up? I'm going to embarrass you. Yay, Paul. So in the middle over here, that's Paul. That's Paul. So, but you have to watch the whole movie. This is, if we have time, we'll come back to this later, but I want to get to the questions. But ASCE sponsored the development of an IMAX movie. And it's called Cities of the Future, and actually virtually everybody who appears in the movie is an ASCE member. We have members. Paul got to travel to a number of places around the country and around the world for the filming of this movie. I hope you get a chance to see it. It's showing in a lot of science theaters, but you can also arrange to bring it to the university and show it. It really helps to paint that picture of what the world you are designing, that you will be designing throughout your careers, could possibly look like. And it looks very different from the world that I got to help design. Oh, that's the clip of the movie. And then lastly, I would say, also have fun. I am a big foodie. I take a lot of food pictures. So if you follow me on Instagram, you will see a hashtag ASCE Eats. Where I post a lot of my food pictures. But more importantly, more seriously, please, if we are not already connected, connect with me on LinkedIn. I travel a lot on behalf of ASCE. I'm active in a lot of different ways with civil engineering and with infrastructure, and I post a lot of information. I'd love to be connected to you. I hope that one of the things that you will do when you leave today is to go on to the ASCE website. If you're not members, you should be. It is free for students. It is free the first year after you graduate. You should join. Make sure that the email address that we have for you in the website in your profile is not a .edu email address. And I say that because a year after you graduate, that email address is probably going to go away and we will lose contact, and we don't want to lose contact with you. So use, what is an acceptable personal email address of yours so that we can help you, we can partner with you, we can collaborate with you throughout your career, because I'm sure in the Q&A we'll talk about, it is so important to find a home, a professional home outside of your job, where you can build community, where you can build family, where you can find mentors, where you can interact with a lot of people who are interested in things that are similar to what you are interested in, and people who are interested in different things, so that you can always be learning. As Dr. Wang said, I got my degree just a couple of years ago. I'm a lifelong learner. Just because I finished my PhD, I'm not done learning. I'm trying to learn something new every single day, and that's what keeps me going. And so when I look at this group, I see a really bright future, and I want you all to keep me on my toes, help me keep learning, keep doing the great things that you do so that I can continue to learn from you. So thank you very much for letting me share my story.
Thank you, Marsha. Just for your information, if you register ASC with a UW email, you could set up the forwarding services to your private email. I think UW will keep your email address for a long time. You may lose the access to the MyUW, right? So I think that's a good way to consider doing. Now I would like to invite our second speaker, Bruce Haldors. Thanks, Bruce.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Appreciate all you being here, and I'm sorry that I'm sandwiched between two legends of our industry here, so you're going to have to put up with just a low-life average guy here. But so let me set this up to get my presentation here. It's not quite as interesting as Marsha's for sure, but there is some things here I did put together. Let's see if I can find it. There it is. Okay. Did it open? Let's see if I can get it going. Oh, it's not on the. Did you save it on the hard drive by chance? She might not have saved it. If she didn't, then I might need to get your little stick back. Let's see. Thanks. No, this is perfect. Thanks. Sorry about that. All right, now we can pull
Uh-oh,
it.
there's a problem with the drive. Scan the drive now and fix it.
Oh, no, let's not do that. There you go.
Oh, there it is.
All right, good.
There we go.
Scary for a minute.
All right, there we go. Okay, so I don't have nearly as many interesting pictures or commentary, but I'll just kind of talk about my experience and my background and give you just some ideas to think about. Much of what Marsha's talked about is incorporated in my presentation as well, so it's a very consistent theme in terms of being active, being involved, being curious, being a lifelong learner, and that's what I try to do. Not nearly to the level that these people have achieved, but I'm working at it. So as Dr. Wang said, I got a master's degree from Berkeley back in 1990, before most of you were born probably. And at that time, I was involved heavily in what they called the Highway Capacity Manual. And I studied under a guy named Dolph May, who was kind of a legend in our industry, who was one of the founding writers of that particular document that was used very, very aggressively in our industry for many, many years and still is to this day active. So I focused on traffic operations and modeling and those kinds of things, which was really interesting to me because we were first using computers, and I remember getting my first internet address, and he asked me, why do you need an email address? I said, well, I want to communicate with people across the country who are on this DARPANET thing, and so it was kind of fun. It was pretty interesting times. So, so from that, I really learned that I wanted to just seek new and adventuresome kinds of things, and so got involved in consulting, and part of that was because I wanted to just get involved in a variety of different projects. Now, I wish, as Marcia's experience crosses public and private sectors, mine's been pretty much focused on the private sector. I'm doing a lot of different volunteer work as well in public sector, but nothing where I've been employed inside the public sector. But I've learned a lot from people like Marcia who have that experience across both sectors. But I think it's really important to just learn about perspectives and what different perspectives people have. And one of the things that I value from my experience is the international piece. So we started a company back in the early 2000s in the UAE. And part of that was because one of my partners was doing a project for the World Bank. And that World Bank project involved some reconstruction of some war-torn areas in the Middle East. And through that, he became aware of lots of activity going on in the UAE. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Dubai and Abu Dhabi, but the rapid pace at which they were building out infrastructure in the early 2000s was crazy. So we got involved in that. And so we started a company there and spent a lot of time going over there. And what I found most intriguing was not necessarily the pace at which they were building infrastructure. It was just blowing my mind, but it was the people that were involved, just from so many different cultures, so many different backgrounds. And it just was so neat to learn. One time I sat down at a table with some of our employees, and there was, I think, 15 people, and there was probably 23 languages spoken. So it was just a really cool experience, having grown up in Portland, Oregon, and lived in the Northwest my whole life, and not really getting a passport until 1994. Never really left the country. But just learning from all the different cultures and the perspectives and backgrounds that people had was really, really opened my eyes and broadened my horizon and said, there's so much more to this world. There's so many things that I can learn from so many other people who have such different experiences as my own. Clearly, that's where things are headed. I mean, I look in this room and I see a lot of you are from different backgrounds. And as Marcia said earlier, it's like you go back to the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and it was all a bunch of old white guys in the room doing engineering work. And the diversity that's now inside our industry is just amazing. And it's a testament to people like Marcia who really pushed that and promoted that and have brought a really good perspective to what was really kind of a staid sort of industry at the time. Let's see here. So what I see is kind of some of the landscape of transportation. I kind of focus on three things here in this presentation. It's sort of the landscape of transportation, and then what I see as kind of the really important things around creativity, innovation, and being connected to people. Clearly, the times in which we're living is just transformational. I mean, it's one of those periods when things are rapidly changing. There's all kinds of new technology that's being adopted at pace at which nobody's really dealt with before. And there's so much data now. And so before, when we were building models, my research project at the university was to model smart traveler information. So at the time we were like, wow, what if people had information about going from A to B and they knew how long it would take them, or they knew the fastest route? And it was like, everybody's like, oh, that'll never happen. What are you talking about? It's like, no, just crazy things that we were modeling, but it was all, static modeling. We'd collect data for one day, use 1 day's worth of data, and go out 25 years and say, what's that going to look like in 25 years? And so now it's like we're getting data real time, always, 24/7, 365. And nothing is really static anymore. It's just always changing. So having the ability to adapt and really not just deal with what's happening in front of you now, but forecasting out in the future of what's happening in real time is really important, and really something that you all are familiar with and can deal with. But as people in my era, that was such a different thing that we couldn't imagine how that could possibly be. So my point in that is that there are things that you guys can't even imagine that will be happening in the next 25 years. And it's hard to kind of project that, but it's a really exciting time because the pace at which things are happening is so much faster than it was when I started in the industry. The kinds of things that we learn too come from folks like Dr. Wang and his research lab, and PacTrans is a great example of leveraging technology and research to kind of promote new ideas in the industry. And so I really strongly urge you to be involved in those kinds of things and to read the research that's out there, be involved in it as best you can, learn from the research that's happening, because ultimately the research leads to practical and implementable solutions that you'll be dealing with. And as Marcia mentioned, gain experience from other people, other industries. Like there's this convergence happening of, software, design, architects, all these industries, urban design, are all coming together now. And so you're not really just in a silo. You're part of a more interconnected sort of group of people that have different backgrounds to really leverage their experience and to build systems and infrastructure that you can't even imagine today. Some of the innovations that are out there, you guys are all familiar with, LLMs. These are the kinds of things. I'm involved in a company that does sentiment analysis. I never thought I'd be involved in a company that is using AI to project sentiment from people, but they're gathering real-time information about how people feel about transit systems, and these transit systems then have the ability to build digital twins to anticipate how people will feel about different capital projects, about different changes to their system, about safety of their systems, all these kinds of things that I had no idea I would be involved in 15, 20 years or coming out of school 30 years ago that were even possible. But just through industry connections and being involved in different kinds of communities, you really get exposed to different people who then ask you to help them and be involved in their systems or their projects. And so it's been really fun to kind of learn along the way. There are all kinds of smart system examples that are happening out there. Obviously, congestion management is a big issue now. They're talking about the tolling, and you guys experience it around here where it's priced by demand, all those kinds of things. And now we're integrating all the modes. That's what's really exciting to me too. When I was studying back in the 90s, it was all about traffic and cars and how people moved in cars, and now it's the full system. It's how people move. So it's whether it's in transit, they're walking, they're biking, they're driving, they're riding in carpools, all those kinds of things. So all this innovation is happening so fast, and it's so important for everybody to stay on top of. And again, leveraging the research and the organizations that are out there and seeing what they're doing and where they're headed, like the stuff that Marcia was illustrating, is really, really important. So creativity is another area that I think is really important as you think about your careers and you want to promote your own, you want to build your leadership skills. Creativity is something that is built on a strong technical foundation. So, learning from others, finding mentors is really key. And Marcia pointed that out, and how Ava was a mentor of hers, and how it really helps lead you to paths that you might not discover otherwise, and you're going to learn things from people who have experience in the industry that may be different from your experience or different culture that you come from. All those kinds of things are really important. Creativity in terms of how it's applied, I think communication. To me, that's been one of the most important assets in my careers, focusing on how to communicate and communicating at different levels. And Marcia talked about her public sector experience. I worked for a lot of private sector, or I worked inside the private sector and be advocating for different private development per se, and I'd have to work with the public sector to acknowledge what their goals were, what the private sector's goals were, and try to come in alignment to those and get a project to move forward. And so being able to communicate to whether it's a policymaker or a very technical person is hugely important, and also to a person who doesn't have a technical background but is very technical in another space. Really, really important to grow your career and develop your leadership skills is that ability to communicate. And when I talk about communicate, it's not just about charisma. It's really about the character and how you got to be full of integrity, and all your communication should be built on integrity and that solid technical foundation that you have, and not just, hey, you're a good speaker. It's all about being able to communicate with integrity and having that solid technical background to do that. And lastly, in the creativity, we're going from being just engineers, civil engineers or designers or planners, to being system architects. It's a real holistic kind of perspective, so that you may be, maybe get out in the job market and you're assigned one particular task, but at the end of the day, it's part of a larger system. And having that big picture and that more holistic sort of perspective is really important. So these are all things that Marcia talked about, so I won't go through them in great detail, but I think the things that I find most important in terms of leadership are just being curious, and there's no substitute for curiosity and lifelong learning. I mean, things are changing, particularly now as things change so fast. being adaptable, kind of reinventing your career. I was at a presentation about a month ago, and somebody said that at your generation, there's likely to be 7 career changes for a person your age, which is kind of blows me away. But that just tells you how fast things are changing and the opportunities that will be presented to you. So being adaptable and being able to reinvent yourself is really an important leadership trait as you look forward into your career. Collaborating with others, I talked about that, particularly from different cultures, different backgrounds, different ethnic experiences, or different technical experiences, all that thing. That collaboration, that is going to be the real key to having a successful career and having a strong leadership position. And then I talked about having vision, but also then integrity. Integrity is everything to me. I mean, people who you can trust, you can count on, they do what they say, your word is your word. Those things just, you can't go through a 30-year career and be telling little white lies or not telling the truth, because our industry's too small and the world's too small. You have to be, everything you do should be built on integrity, and I think that's just something I can't emphasize enough. I'm going to just skip through a lot of this stuff, but I think let me just, one last thing on that. One of the things that Marcia noted I think is really important is that, the next generation systems, they need to be safer. I mean, safety's the #1 thing right now in terms of where the funding's going, what's important. They need to be smarter, they need to be cleaner, and importantly, they need to be more resilient. So a resilient system is something that can withstand this kind of change that we're going through, the kinds of things that we can't predict, the kinds of, whether it's a natural disaster or it's a technological change, all these things, having a resilient network is very, very critical. See, just a couple more things here. So what is my advice to you as you embark on your career, looking for ways to be successful in your career? And I'm not saying by any stretch I've been successful. I've been very blessed in my career. I've been surrounded by amazing people, amazing mentors, and just watched from the sidelines people like Eva and Marcia, and I've been blessed to be able to do that. But it's all because I've been very curious, and I've always tried to learn. I've tried to connect with different people, whether it's through organizations or in different industries or different companies, all those kinds of things, and do it with confidence. Know that you're going to stumble, you're going to fail. I've failed many times. I've started several different businesses that have done great things and then they fail. But I take what I learned from that and apply that to the next thing. And so having that resiliency to fail and not being afraid to fail and be confident in yourself is a really important trait, I think. And everyone is a leader. I don't care if you're engineer 1 or you're the president of a company. Everybody has a leadership responsibility. And I think as you embark on that, think with that mindset. Think that I'm a leader. I'm going to do the best job I can. I'm going to be confident. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to be connected. I'm going to be collaborative with people. All these things are just, your leadership skills develop from right now, from the day you're born to your entire career. So be always adaptable and always be curious, and you'll have no problem being successful. I guarantee you that. So that's it.
Thanks a lot, Bruce. Now I would like to invite our third speaker, Eva.
Thanks. Well, hello, everybody. It's such an honor to be here, especially with my mentor, Marcia Anderson-Bomar, and Bruce, who I just met this afternoon, but I loved what he was saying about integrity. I'm going to ask you all to raise whatever hand you are handed in. If you're righty, raise your right hand. Raise them, raise them. Okay, if you're a lefty, raise your left hand. Okay, I want you to do it one more time. Right? Okay, and left? Okay, now I'm going to throw some vocabulary words at you. And I want you to raise your hand as soon as you recognize what the word is. And after you've raised your hand, I'm going to call on one of you, and you're going to say what the definition of that word is. Got it? All right. You're either left-handed or right-handed, but you don't get to keep your hands down. All right? Okay, GPU. What does GPU stand for? Oh my God, there's only three? Oh, come on, GPU. What does GPU stand? Okay, the fellow in the hat, the cap. You. Graphic processing unit, right. And for those of you who don't know that, jot it down, put it in your iPhone. It's okay if you put it in your iPhone. All right, how about token? Come on. Okay, I see somebody there with token.
Token in what sense?
Ah, okay, how about in the transaction sense?
So if we're talking about data,
Yep.
when you take some piece of data and you turn it into a token, that's what the LLM is used to output.
Okay, I'm going to just modify that a little bit, because if you have a piece of data that's starting at point A and it needs to go to point B or node B, when that transfer happens, that particular transfer is marked as a token. That transaction is a token. There are many different definitions of token. What's an object? It's a data object. Come on. You guys are all engineers, come on. What's a data object? Oh my goodness. Okay, so mark that down. You gotta know what a data object is. All of these terms are in my slides. So you will all be able to access my slides. Right, you've gotta be. All right, how about one more? Let me see. How about, no, two more. How about an embedding? What's an embedding? Nobody, come on. One person? Yes.
High-dimensional representation.
What?
Dimensional representation.
A dimensional representation. Oh, that's good. A sort of a domain-grounded representation. Okay, that's an embedding. Final one. What's a vector? We're talking about AI. What's a vector? What's a vectorized object? Okay, so I hope you learned something in my slides. I was hoping you'd go, yeah, I like what she's talking about, but all right, how do I pull this? Where's my stuff? How do I pull mine up? I don't see mine.
If you already loaded.
Yeah, please. Okay. I appreciate your pulling it up. Yinhai mentioned that I'm in the National Academy of Engineering, and so is Marcia. Nobody was more surprised than me to be elected to the National Academy of Engineering. My quick backstory, my parents were in the United States getting education in 1947-48, and then in 1949, the Iron Curtain went up, and they were not allowed to go back into the country of their ethnic origin, which was then the People's Republic of China. They met in 1950, they got married, they had me in 1954, and so when I was growing up, I was told by my parents, sorry you don't speak English, we don't either. Sorry you have to go to school and try to figure out how to understand English. And sorry, don't make any noise, because if you make noise, people will see, who is that? I was the only Chinese in my class in Yonkers, New York. If you make noise, if you make a fuss, they could come and we may be disappeared. Okay, so what we're experiencing right now is history repeating itself. So I was a very curious kid, and I was told by my parents, shh, don't make any fuss. Whatever you don't understand on the school bus or walking to the school door or in your classroom, just remember it and ask yourself, who's doing that? Why are they doing it? Where are you? When is this happening? And how is it happening? I think I missed one. So who, what, why, when, where, how, okay? And you answer those questions to the best of your ability when you see something weird at school or on the bus. Come home, we'll sit around the dinner table, and you tell us what happened, and we will try to answer those questions for you. And if there are any questions we cannot answer, you go figure it out. You research it. And that's basically the rules of journalism. That's what reporters do. They see something happening, they see an attack in Iran. Who's doing it? Why are they doing it? When is this? Where is it happening? Why is it happening? And how is it happening? If you can't answer any of those 6 questions, you got to go deeper. You got to figure that out, all right? So AI starts up. I started noticing it in 2019, and it became really, really big in 2024 when Jensen Huang made his keynote address at the GTC convention in March of 2024, and he announced the GPU, the Blackwell GPU. When he did that, I felt like I was back in kindergarten in the Bronx. Whoa, what's happening? Who's doing it? Why are they doing it? Where is it happening? When is it happening? How is it happening? And I keep missing the last one. You get the idea. So I started digging deep because I could hardly answer any of those questions. And I found an incredible set of resources because the tech guys were all online doing YouTube videos, they were doing webinars, they were getting together in these new consortia, talking about the next big thing. And then OpenAI started getting big with their ChatGPT, and I tried it, and oh my gosh, what a bunch of junk. Like, who is Eva Lerner-Lamb? She got a geophysics degree from Columbia University and is now a professor at Columbia. That's my husband. That's not me. It was terrible. ChatGPT was just absolutely horrible. And when I saw that, I asked myself, why is the answer so hallucinatory? Why? Well, it must be that the source data is terrible. So I have a website. I've got Eva Lerner-Lamb, but not that many people go to that website. So did OpenAI just simply ignore my website? They found the Lerner-Lamb. Hey, close enough. My husband's at Columbia University. He's got a lot of hits on his site, so let's just pick that up. That was when I realized the danger of hallucinations. And I figured, okay, OpenAI, ChatGPT, it's a fly-by-night thing. It'll come and go. But it didn't. It just took off. And I started asking myself another set of questions. What happens if civil engineers start using this new GPU-based AI technology? What's going to happen when hallucinations start occurring because the original source data was incorrect? The propagation of garbage is going to be really difficult to discern and to control, and any work that is done is going to be contaminated by that original lack of certainty. We call it V&V, verified and validated. That was going to be one of the ones I was going to ask you about, but V&V, verified and validated. Those are in the slides. You can see them. All right, so that's the origin, and this is how come you see me, a 71-year-old Chinese woman, standing up in front of you talking about what your opportunities are in AI. That's, how nuts is that, Eva? How crazy is that? All right, so knowledge infrastructure, that's another term that we all must be on the same page about. It's very different than data, okay? And I'm going to walk you through that difference. And I'm going to be focusing on an AI-enabled transportation, but the principles that I'm describing to you today are applicable across every single expert domain, all right? So what knowledge will AI tools use to help design, build, operate, and maintain transportation systems? That is actually the fundamental question we are all on the cusp of. What knowledge will AI tools use to help us figure out how to be good civil engineers in transportation? AI tools are currently being used for traffic monitoring and infrastructure condition assessment. That's really important. Safety analysis, planning, scenario evaluation, among many other things. But they depend not only on raw data, but on engineering knowledge. Now we're going to talk about the difference. From data infrastructure, all right, that's almost spreadsheets, okay? Spreadsheets, PDF documents, codes and standards that are published in Word or PDF format. All right, data infrastructure, we're used to that. And the collection ingestion, that was another word I was going to ask you, ingestion. All right, data ingestion is done by sensors. We've got connected vehicles out there. We've got traffic data streams. We've got large data sets. And the early AI models, and I'm talking about the last 2-3 years, all right, the early AI models were trained on raw data from these point ingestion sources. the emerging requirement is knowledge infrastructure, and that's why I asked about embeddings. Knowledge infrastructure is when you take the engineering standards, the design rules, the planning assumptions, the operational guidance, and you add everything else, you end up feeding knowledge to agentic AI systems that reason. Okay, they're not just a lookup, they're not just a Google lookup, they're not just going into your old Encyclopedia Britannica, which you're all too young for, but I think Bruce and Marcia and Professor Wang know that we used to have to go to the library and look up an Encyclopedia Britannica, volume 17, look it up, and it's like 30-year-old article, but that was research. And that's the way I find that professors today, maybe with the exception of Professor Wang, that's the way I find university and high school, university professors, high school teachers are thinking in those terms when they say, don't you dare use ChatGPT. What, you're answering my homework assignments with an AI agent? What? Forget about that, you have to do your own research. And what's your own research? You go on Google? Hey, there isn't a whole lot of difference between Google and AI. So teacher, stop lecturing me about how to do research. I know how to do research. You don't know how to do research, teacher. So, but you, as you're doing your research using AI, you have to be able to discern verified and validated knowledge. And I'll go back to that. So where engineering knowledge lives today is in PDFs, design manuals, spreadsheets, databases, technical memos. And these were designed for ingestion by humans and by machine readers, scanners, okay? What AI cannot, why AI cannot use the documents alone is because they use something called, and this is another thing I spared you guys because you didn't even know how to define objects. RAG tools are retrieval augmented generation tools. And that's how the AI models, the AI, by the way, in my mind, does not stand for artificial intelligence. There's nothing artificial or intelligent about computers. They are automated inference tools. They automatedly infer, based on your model parameters, an answer. And if the answer doesn't meet some sort of criteria, they go back and they go retrieve some more information and they churn it back, and so you have automated inference. So automated inference tools today use RAG tools, retrieval augmented generation tools. They go back out into the original source data and they pick up relevant knowledge. They combine it with AI reasoning models, and then they generate new results. That's what AI is. That's what automated inference is. It is not artificial intelligence. Every time I see artificial intelligence, it's like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. If you call it artificial intelligence, you fooled yourself. All right, so this is the way people used to do things. They used to take PDFs. This is the way I grew up in high school. We didn't have PDFs then. We had the Encyclopedia Britannica. We had the math book. All right. We had to look up page 79 or page 279, and then we would read it, and then we would use our brains and figure out what the answer should be. I'm going to keep this slide on for a few minutes. That green box is where we're at right now. The green box is the equivalent, Marcia, can you hold up my phone? Yeah. The green box is the equivalent to a mobile phone, all right? Before, we used to use a telephone. Thank you very much, Marcia. Before, we used a telephone to talk to people, and if mom was home, she answered the phone, she talked to Eva. Then, if mom wasn't home, when we fast forward 30 years, she's got a voicemail machine, a recorder with a cassette tape in it. Most of you don't know what those are. And then fast forward, now we have voicemail in digital form, all right? So in each of those step functions, there was a technological innovation that enabled that advance. So suddenly, you weren't losing stuff because the magnetic tape got erased because you put a magnet over it. No, it's digitally forever recorded somewhere. So the green box represents the new technology that has emerged in just the last several years to make the document ingestion easier for the user. But in order to make it easier, you had to build everything in between. And now, what I want to do is point out that it's not just one tool. The tool has several different steps. So if you start on the left-hand side, you'll see that structured canonical knowledge objects. Okay, who knows what the word canonical means? Come on. Yes?
I guess it's like in a series.
No. Canonical.
Good try.
Canonical. Canonical to me is truth. It's really true. It's canonical. Look it up. Okay. So a canonical object is something that is truth. Now, if you're writing a poem, you write the poem. That's your truth. Okay. And so if you can find a way to package it, right now you can put it onto a Google Drive in the form of a file. All right. So your canonical object can be actually considered to be your poem that's in a Google Doc. All right. That's canonical truth because you generated it. Is the grammar correct? Is the rhyme right? Is the time right? No. It's your canonical truth. All right. Now, let's say you wrote a short novel and it's got 4 chapters to it. You write the novel, you write the text, it's got a story arc and everything, and you break that novel into 4 chapters, and you decide that the first chapter is going to be titled blah, blah, blah. The second chapter is going to be titled blah, blah, blah. So you come up with those 4 titles, and you package that document, and you want to publish that. You go find a publisher. This is like yesterday, okay? You find a publisher. The publisher says, oh, I like that story. I'm going to go ahead and publish it for you, and I'm going to print up 1,000 copies, and I'm going to sell them out of Amazon store or Barnes & Noble. So your novel gets packaged with those 4 chapter headings and the title of the book, all right? And then Amazon goes in there and it adds dust cover. Do you know what dust cover writings are? So there's a dust cover on your book and the inside flap says, this author was in her teenage years when she wrote this book, and as she grew up, she added more chapters. So that's subjective. That's an embedding. The embedding for the book is subjective. The titles of the chapters, the title of the book, those are canonical. Okay, so there's a difference between the original source author saying, this is my truth, and Amazon coming on and saying, yeah, you know, subjectively speaking, she wrote this when she was this and she grew up a lot, and like, all right, if you think that'll sell the book, okay, but it's not my canonical truth. It may be close to truth, but it's not me. It's you giving the opinion, all right? These are such important concepts. Please access this PDF and look these terms up, because this, I believe, is your best shot at opportunity in the future. The second one is called vector stores, semantic embeddings. Now that Google Books or Barnes & Nobles has decided they know how to describe your canonical truth, they have to put those canonical truisms, I shouldn't confuse you, they will put their semantic embeddings attached to your canonical object and then put the whole package into their store. And then when you go onto Amazon Books or go to Barnes & Nobles and you want to look for a novel written by a 12-year-old who talks about the future of engineering, this book will come up because your title, your chapter headings, plus the embeddings that were added by some third party will draw the RAG tool, the Retrieval Augmented Generation tool, right to your object, all right? The object has to be vectorized because guess what? Computers only read numbers. They don't really read words. We're told now by the AI giants that we have large language models. They don't actually read words. The words are vectorized into numbers. And the models model the numbers in a way that you get good answers, bad answers, hallucinatory junk. The models do a billion exercises and they spit out something back at you. And what they're finding now, the big tech companies, is as they've gotten lots and lots of canonical objects that have been vectorized into these semantically embedded objects, they're finding that the hallucination rates are too high. And now people are getting really frustrated because they're subscribing to these things and they're getting junk back. And if you go back in my chart here, why is it junk? It's because the original source was not properly attributed. Furthermore, it was not properly compensated. If you don't get compensated, you don't care. If you get compensated, you care whether your canonical truth is getting out there. And your buyers of your canonical truth will pay it as long as they know they're getting truth. If they think they're getting junk, they're not going to pay for it. And you don't want anything to do with what was junked. So there's more to that slide. I don't want to take up too much more time here with the, how to, come on, Eva. Yeah. All right, here we go. So difference between verification and validation, they're completely different things. Is the knowledge technically correct? Only the domain expert can tell you whether it is technically correct. Even your teacher can't tell you, all right? You can ask advice from your teacher, but if you are going to be publishing something, an object that you want to be canonical, you can ask your teacher for suggestions, but unless the teacher's name is also included as the author, he or she has no right to be the verifier. Only you can verify your canonical truth. Now, let's say you decided to come up with a formulation for, you came up with E equals MC squared, all right? And you want to say that that's your canonical truth. You will verify that that's your canonical truth. You need to get it validated. And as soon as you go to a third party, the third party says, oh, you didn't come up with that. Einstein came up with that. I can't validate that what you said is true, all right? That's the difference between verification and validation, and both are essential for AI-supported decisions. You need both. You can't have one or the other. So knowledge objects may include design rules, planning model assumptions, operational guidelines, safety thresholds. This is much more than data objects, all right? This is stuff that you have to put into a format that the RAG tools will recognize, pick up, and then mish and mash together with other canonical objects that have been embedded and vectorized. And that's what the two boxes on the right-hand side of the green box, that's what those do. The RAG retrieval tools and the AI reasoning tools, let's let the tech giants take care of those. We don't all need to be computer science people, but let's not let them tell us what canonical truth is, and they damn well better not tell us what the semantic embeddings are. Only we and the people we trust as domain experts, only the people who are domain experts should be allowed to define canonical objects and the vectorized embeddings. Okay, this is so important because it's not being allowed to happen. Now, if anybody looks at me, I didn't say that. If anybody asks you who's working at Microsoft, Google, or OpenAI, or Anthropic, you didn't hear it from me, okay? Because they are wanting to take ownership of the vector store. They want to vectorize yours. Why? Why do they want to vectorize your canonical objects? Because if they vectorize it, it's no longer yours, and they don't have to compensate you for it. These are such important principles. Please come back to this slide after this is over. There's one more here. Okay, so engineering knowledge, not data. Okay, engineering knowledge must be structured, verified, validated, and retrievable. Because I can have all of my biography on my one page at my company website. It's very straightforward, it's very simple, but it's true. It's just that I didn't tag it for AI RAG tools. So those RAG tools still have a hard time finding my bio. Every now and then, a new AI model pops up like DeepSeek, and it still insists that Eva Lerner-Lam's bio, and it spits out my husband's bio from Columbia University, because more people go to that than my private consulting firm. So I have to change my data, the way I currently store my data. I have to convert my data into objects, canonical objects. And those canonical objects need to be embedded and vectorized and then labeled for API. What's an API? Oh, come on. Okay. Oh, no, you've already answered one. Yes, in the back. Nope, sorry, not in this context. Nobody else knows what an API is. Oh, come on. API, Application Programming Interface. That's how those tech tools on the right-hand side of that green box, that's how they interface with the data, all right? APIs. Now, as we're entering the agentic AI space, there's been so much happening in agentic AI in the last week and a half. It's not just the war in Iran that we started with Israel. Other stuff has been happening out there, and it's the takeover of our society by agentic AI tools. Agentic AI tools need more than APIs. Okay, I just told you what the definition of API was. Who remembers what I said? What's an API? Come on, right-handers. Application Programming Interface, all right? You guys are engineers. Imagine what that means and then look it up later. Application Programming Interface, all right? Now with agentic AIs, we now need to deal with something called MCPs. Who knows what an MCP is? Okay, it's a model context protocol. So model context protocols, you've got a bunch of models out there, different tech companies, different startups, developing new AI models, and now you want to get them to be agentic. You want them, after you've found the flight you want to take, you want them to book the flight for you, but you've got to go through your bank and your credit card. Suddenly, you need more than just an application profile interface, programming interface. You need something called a model context protocol. And that protocol tells you when you go charge the credit card, whether you're allowed to charge the credit card, et cetera. Those model context protocols, MCPs, are the way that agentic AIs need to work. Now, your future, your opportunity, in my view, is learning your domain experience, learn from these engineers, learn about transportation engineering, get to be domain experts so that you can actually define all those words I introduced to you today so that you can be the owners of your knowledge, the owners of your objects. You know how to vectorize them, you know how to embed them, and you know how much you want to charge the Googles, the OpenAIs, the Anthropics, every time they send their RAG tool to go pick up your canonical objects. All right? That's your future. That's your future. And when other people tell you, go work for Google, they're working on transportation things, ask them, where are you getting your data? Where's your canonical object data source? Are you compensating them? Where's their name? Where's their metadata? Oh, you own it? Well, we're just a bunch of data engineers here at Google. What do you mean you know how to build a bridge? What do you mean you know what the tensile strength of steel is for a structural skyscraper? What do you mean? You're just a Google data engineer. I'm a domain expert. You guys have so much power to control the future for yourself, for your children, for your grandchildren. Good luck. Okay.
Thank you very much, Eva. And thanks everybody, the panel members for sharing your vision. We have a long list of questions, so the rule is, no more than 2 panelists answer any question. And we could start with, the audience. Now you see we have a new weapon, which is this microphone ball. And it's the first time using it.
Cool.
I hope it works, right? It works? Okay.
I thought that was a raffle. I want to. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Okay, well, you said no more than 2 can answer the question?
Yes, yeah, with a question, normally every panel member comment, right?
Yeah.
But given the long list of questions, we have a rule, we discussed already. No more than 2 of them just respond.
Okay,
Or maybe just 1 person respond.
Well, this is a question for Eva and Marcia. Since you both work in the public sector as well as the private sector, what are some of the key differences in workplace environments as well as overall goals and strategies when it comes to completing and funding transportation projects?
Good. You first.
Are these on? Do you have the handheld? I can
Yeah, we're
speak
trying
on it.
to.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Okay. All right. Here we go. So, can you hear me?
That's for the recording.
Yeah, we're on.
Yeah, but for the video.
Oh. All right. So I'll speak loudly so you can hear me. So the way the short answer is, okay, thanks. The short answer is when you work in the public sector, you get to decide what projects are important, sometimes with some political influence, but you get to decide what projects are important, and you get to go pursue the funding for it. When you're on the private side, you get to work on the projects that the public sector thinks are important. If you win the project, you have to propose, you have to be selected to bid on, to work on the project. One is not better than the other. They're just different. And so that's one of the reasons that I had my own company. I sold my company because I wanted to, we're fading in now. I wanted to work on the public side to really experience that. On the public side, there's also a little more politics involved, especially when you're at a slightly more senior level. You have a lot of bosses. In my case, at the City of Atlanta, for example, there were 18 city council members plus a mayor, and they all thought they were in charge of me. And so. Do you want to answer?
My answer's about the same. So.
Okay. All right. Well.
Next question.
Anybody else wants to ask a question? Somebody. Anybody?
They just don't want to catch the ball.
Nobody? Maybe I will ask a prepared question. So, how do you see the AI maybe impacting the future career in civil engineering?
Yeah. I see AI not as a threat. I see it as the most amazing career opportunity.
Hold the microphone closer.
The most amazing career opportunity because I see it a lot like Henry Ford may have seen it. Henry Ford invents the Model T on an assembly line. He rolls off the first 1,000, and then they're coming out onto the streets, and he goes to the nearest town, Detroit, and he goes, "Hey, we've got the first 1,000 automobiles here. Everybody, get your gasoline pumps ready and your rubber tires." And the shoesmith goes, "I know how to make horseshoes. I don't know what rubber is. And what are you talking about? Gasoline? What? You have to dig down deep into the earth. You bring this stuff out? No, I don't know what happened to this. And what are you talking about? Gasoline? I know how to feed a horse water and hay. I know how to feed a horse water and hay. I don't know what gasoline is. What do you mean I have to mine it? What do you mean I have to move it in a tanker? What? Pump it into the ground and then pump it back out through it? What are you talking about?" That's where we're at right now. So you are at a stage in your education where if you learn how to bridge that gap, you are going to be one of the hottest commodities out there for both the private sector and the public sector, because you're going to get it. You're going to understand it. You're going to understand how the pieces fall out. One other thing that I meant to suggest is you know, you talk to any of the data people at any of these big tech companies, they'll throw you all of these sketches of boxes with arrows, lots of words, you know, those diagrams, right? You got to learn how to do that too. But you don't have to make them look so complicated. You don't. You just have to do what I did, right? PDFs, user. Okay, now we got something in between. What are those pieces? Just block that out. Once you block it out, you can't unsee it. You know, and you can show it to your boss. You can show it to your mayor and council. You can show it to your entrepreneurial president. You rule. You guys have all the power. I wish I was 50 years younger. Really, it's very, very exciting time. And you know, if anybody tells you, oh, don't use AI, you know, it's like, yeah, right, okay, Professor. I know Professor Wong doesn't do this, so I can say this freely, but I know so many teachers. I teach a bunch of interns, and every week they come back to me and say, oh, I'm so glad we can come here. We can actually ask you questions about how we can use AI smarter, because we're told we are prohibited from using AI. Well, then what are they left with? My God. Anyway, you hold so much power in your hands. Go for it. Go for it.
Thank you, Eva. Any other questions? Are you ready to catch?
What a weird thing, holding a ball.
This might be a question that was I posted to the board as well, but this is a question for Eva and Marsha. What is one of the most important things that you have learned in your career, specifically as a woman in transportation engineering? And what is one recommendation you would give to other women who want to pursue a career in transportation engineering?
Yeah, what a great question. So there were a lot of years when I was the only woman in the room, and I learned a lot of lessons from that time. You know, claim your space. You know, women have historically been more demure, kind of, I'm going to be in the background. Maybe for some of us it was cultural, you know, that women should not be seen or heard. You know, I grew up in the Jewish faith where women sat behind the curtain or up in the second balcony. You weren't allowed to be part of the. So when I got to engineering, it wasn't so foreign to me that I was told the same kind of things. And I finally kind of worked on myself, and I gained the confidence to take my space. So when I come and sit down in a room for a meeting, I kind of spread my stuff out. I take my space. You know, I claim it. If somebody interrupts me, and no offense, but it's usually a man who will interrupt me while I'm speaking, I will very politely suggest that I would like to finish before they start speaking. If others, and sometimes it's another woman, but you know, often a man, as soon as I finish, kind of starts explaining what I just said. I said, I think before you do that, it's called mansplaining, by the way. If you start, you know, they start doing that. I said, you know, why don't we just let the audience ask questions if they need clarification? But I think maybe most people got it. So I think it takes courage. It takes confidence. You know, you don't have to have courage and confidence. You just have to act like you have courage and confidence. And I spent a lot of time practicing. You know, I would go into the ladies' room and I would stand and talk to myself in the mirror to build up my own confidence. You know, there are more of you in the room. Be each other's advocates when you see something like that happen. If the person is not standing up for themselves, you intervene, you stand up for them. You know, be allies. And same thing for the guys. If somebody's stepping on your words, don't let them do that. Own your ideas, own, you know, your place at the table. And if somebody steps on your words, you know, be polite, be respectful, but claim what's yours. I love that Eva talks about it in terms of data, but when you're sitting around the table, the conversation you're having isn't yet another form of data, and you need to own yours. Yeah. Sorry, I stepped over because I was in the light. So.
Thank you.
Anybody want to?
Any other person want? First, and then lady.
So, hi. I have a question to Bruce. I know you have a very big company. Yeah, our lab actually have a project with you, your company. Yeah, it's very good. experience. So I do have a question here. So I'm wondering, as a civil engineering student, what do you think the most important thing, like ability to start your own businesses?
There you go.
Yeah, sorry.
I need both. Okay. Thank you. Great question. If you didn't hear, it was what do you think are the most important things if you want to start your own business or to be a part of a startup business? And I think what Marcia just talked about, being confident, being curious, and really being willing to take a risk and knowing that you may fail. And that's not going to be the end of the world, especially at your age. I think that's the most exciting thing for you guys, as Ava mentioned, is this world is changing so fast, and it's so much happening in such short period of time, and the things that are going to be available to you, we can't even imagine right now, and that'll be in the next 3 years. That's how fast things are changing. And so being willing to put yourself out there, being confident, leveraging your relationships, the people that you know have had success in the past, the people you know who are very strong technically, who are connected and have industry relationships, and volunteering in organizations. These two women have demonstrated tremendously, and obviously their careers have expanded greatly because of that. And I think that's just something that everybody should strive to do, is give back to the industry. But if you want to grow within the industry, really be willing to take some risk, and being a part of organizations and volunteering for positions that you may not feel capable of, very, very important. And I think those are the kind of things that will enable you to be successful in any career, in any business that you choose to go forward with.
Thank you, Bruce. Yes, present back to the room. The girl here.
I don't think it's like, oh, there it goes. Okay. You have to like tilt it to the side. You can't just. I was wondering if you guys have seen any negative impacts due to AI.
We can't.
Oh, you can't?
Stand up and shout.
Oh, I guess so. It's not.
Hear them. It's two different systems.
Oh.
Well, hold it really close if you want to.
Hello? Okay, there you go. I was wondering if you guys have been seeing any negative impacts occurring in the industry because of AI. Like, for example, people in more like tech spaces or creative spaces have been having like their intellectual property stolen, which is huge, or like there is almost like a phasing out of entry-level jobs because of AI that I've been seeing in like a lot of creative spaces. That's it.
All right. I think this is for the remote. So I can shout loud enough so that I don't need that. So I want to quote Mark Pistrella, who is the head of the Department of Public Works for Los Angeles, which is an enormous geography that they cover. And at our ASCE convention, he was giving a talk, and he said, AI will not replace engineers, but engineers who don't know anything about AI will be replaced by engineers who understand AI. So I think, yes, there is a shift in the marketplace. There's a shift in what it takes to be well employed. And so I thoroughly subscribe to what Eva was talking about make sure you understand it. It's a tool. When I was coming up, we used to do everything by hand, and we used graphs and nomographs and had to calculate everything. I use the term calculate very loosely, guesstimate things that way. Obviously, over time, many, many tools came along. Each one was somewhat revolutionary in its own way. This is a bigger revolution, but it is still just a tool, and it's a tool that you have to learn how to use. And if you can understand that everybody doesn't have to be expert in it, but you have to understand it well enough to know when and how to use it, to understand and to be able to verify that what you're getting is a truth, to be able to fact check, to back check, to make sure that you're getting good information. But it's a tool you have to be prepared to at least understand as you move into your career. Yeah, the marketplace is shifting a little bit, but the foundational work that civil engineers do is not going away. Somebody still has to be the geotechnical expert. Somebody still has to be the structural expert. Somebody still has to be the transportation expert. That's subject matter expert to which Eva referred.
I'll just add to what Marcia just said, and I wouldn't waste a whole lot of time passing judgment on whether AI is good or bad for anything. Focus on the data. Focus on the knowledge. You will then sorry, the Chinese trogo, you will then leapfrog over all that hype, because that's all it is. The words that people are using to describe the AI environment, that it's all just words. Focus on the data and the knowledge and your domain expertise. Make sure that what you write, whether it's a newspaper article to the letter, as a letter to the editor, or an initial draft of a paper that is going to be the start of a master's thesis, you get your permission from your professor that you'd like to just package it as a canonical object, embed it with vectors, and just put it out there for RAG tools to come and pick up. You can do that. You own that. Not Wiley and Sons, not Elsevier, not Google. Whatever you write belongs to you. Practice it, prototype it, get that experience, and then the next time you have an opportunity for a job interview, let them know how you own your data. Let them know you understand what APIs are, because you built the API keys to protect your vectorized objects. And not only that, you put the MCP protocols on so that your canonical object can be used by multiple agentic AIs. Now, I'm doing this on purpose, but that's the way the tech people talk. Once you get to be comfortable with that vocabulary and those concepts, you will rule, because you are the domain experts. They are not. Okay? So let everybody else talk about how AI is just a bunch of blah, blah, blah. Let them talk. You get down to work. You start prototyping your own canonical objects and start embedding them yourself. You have the right to do that. You have the right to the attribution, and you have the right to be compensated every time a RAG tool comes and picks up your canonical, your vectorized embedded object, all right? Don't waste time with, if somebody says, oh, you're dealing with AI, yeah, I am, and just walk away. Go back to writing your canonical knowledge. That would be my advice.
I'm going to add one thing to that. I have one more thing.
Yep.
When I was coming up in the industry, there was a term that we always used called engineering judgment.
Yes.
And that is something that is irreplaceable. And they're building these data centers and these artificial intelligence hubs that are costing billions and billions of dollars and consuming billions and billions of megawatts. But at the end of the day, what you have in your head is irreplaceable. And that's the truth. And that's what you need to lean on, is your intelligence, your brain, your truth. And so I think, all this AI puff, and it is definitely changing our world, but at the end of the day, it can't replace your brain. So that's really what you need to focus on.
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree with Bruce. After you've looked up all those definitions, ask Claude to write some software for you and build your own object store and embed your own objects with vectors. Just give it a try. You'll love it. You'll love it, and you might even make some money doing it.
All right, so any other questions? Yeah, wait, Tom.
Well, I'm right here anyways.
Yeah.
Maybe
Talk in
just
so
using
everybody,
this.
everybody can hear you.
How many people do you guys work with, like maybe on a day-to-day basis, and then also, how do you sustain the connections you've established with people, especially over a long period of time? Like it's not just like you meet them once and then you don't talk to them.
I live on Zoom. I deal with at least 30 to 50 people every day. Yeah, minimum.
Yeah. I'm a lot of an in-person person, You know, there are days when I may only talk to 2 people in person, and then there are days like today and many of my outings on behalf of ASCE where I'm meeting dozens and sometimes hundreds of people in a day. Thank you to all of those who already connected with me on LinkedIn. I've already accepted your invitation to connect while I was sitting here. Those of you who didn't, please feel free to continue sending me invitations. I connect a lot digitally, just because right now I'm traveling so much that I don't have the same kind of capacity that Eva has for the daily outreach in the form that she does. But you know, there are going to be days when you can hold up. And I have a home office now. I don't go into a physical company office, and there are days when I am my best friend and I am my only friend. You know, doesn't happen a lot, but it happens. And then there are days where I'm out and about and I'm meeting people and talking to people all day long. And I will tell you, I should stand up to say it. So there was a time when I could not speak. I could not talk. I barely could talk to other people. And I was telling the story yesterday. I had to do my very first public hearing where I had to talk on behalf of a private developer about the project he wanted to build. And I had such a case of anxiety that I hyperventilated through the entire presentation, which meant I said a couple of words and then I was gasping for air. And it was only by doing, whether it was standing up in front of a mirror or with a group of friends, you know, talking. Of course, we didn't have computers like we have now where I could, you know, perhaps like on a Teams thing, record myself, you know, and have a conversation with myself. I didn't have tools like that. But I would go into the bathroom and I would talk to the mirror, make believe that that was another person. But I had to if I wanted to do the kinds of things that interested me, I had to get over being terrified. And the only way I could do it was to just do it and fail and get up and do it again. You know, we always talk about fail fast. You know, do it, fail, and just do it again. And eventually you'll stop failing and you'll start to gain some confidence. And now, as you can tell, I can pretty much talk in front of any group. Doesn't mean I don't get nervous. I still get nervous. And in a way, it's good because it gives me some energy so that I don't yawn in the middle of my own talk. That would be embarrassing. But it just takes practice. It's just something you have to force yourself to do at the beginning. And then after a while, it starts to get a little more comfortable and a little more comfortable.
I'm curious, why do you ask that question?
Oh, because I don't want to like talk with people for like just like one quarter. Like if I met like my classmates or something, like maybe I'll just hang out with them because I'm in the same class as them, but then I'll never see them again.
She's just trying to figure out how to interact with other people is basically, and
well, more specifically, I want to be able to keep in touch with people over a long period of time. I don't want to forget about them, maybe.
You don't want to what?
I don't want to forget about them.
Yeah, I think that's why Marcia does what she does.
Yeah,
you know.
digital tools are great.
Yeah.
You know, I may meet somebody and I may forget their name for a minute, but I can look it up because we've been connected on LinkedIn or I'm active on other social media as well. And, you know, I try my best. If somebody sends me a message, I always answer it. I will.
She's really good at that. I'm not as good. Please go ahead and connect with me, but I'm not as good as she is.
But,
really.
you know, it takes energy.
It does.
It takes energy. It takes
time.
It takes a deliberate decision to do it. And there are days when I think, oh God, I can't do one more answer. But then I said, well, but I made a promise that I would be responsive. So I go and I have my cup of tea and I take a short break. I maybe walk around the block and then I come back and I do what I need to do. So, you know, I'm a list maker. I have an app on my phone called Notes, and somebody's at your house.
Yeah, exactly. My wife's willing
I have a ring doorbell too. But I will make myself a note if there's somebody, because I won't remember. You know, I will try my best, but I will forget. I use my calendar. I put on my calendar, I have not only the kind of standard appointments you put down, but I'll have an appointment for an hour for, say, tomorrow morning that says, okay, write a thank you note to this one and send an email to that one, because I will forget, because I do get busy. But I try so hard to make notes to myself, to remind myself to do some of those touches that are important to me. So only you can decide which ones are the most important touches, how often you want to touch base with that person, and then put it on your calendar. Remind yourself to do it.
Be curious. Be curious of other people. Ask questions. I find people don't want to hear me talk. They want to tell me things. And I love that. I love learning from people.
Yeah.
And so I don't, unless somebody asks me something, I'll reach out to them and ask questions. How are you doing? What have you learned? What are the projects you're working on? What are the things? So finding ways to ask questions and staying connected, because people want to tell you their story. And I think it's important to reach out and ask people questions, and that's how you stay connected.
That's why I really liked your question, and I really wanted to know what motivated you. I think that's a really important question. Yeah.
Great discussion. So, it's very rare you see like 3 leaders at this level sitting in front of you to answer questions. So let's make good use of every minute. Any other questions? Yeah, so she was first and then you. Okay.
Stand up, stand up. There you go.
I have a question for you, Marsha. You say you own a restaurant. And I was curious this whole time, what kind of restaurant it is?
Ah, great. Yeah. So yeah, I don't own the restaurant anymore. I actually had 2 restaurants and a bar. So the first one was a neighborhood gathering spot. It was breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Oh, over here? It was breakfast, lunch, and dinner, soup, salad, sandwich, homemade stuff, with a little wine and beer thrown in, and not for breakfast most days. And we would do live music on Friday and Saturday nights, and art and all kinds of fun things. My second restaurant was a little bit more upscale. It was, I guess I would call it neighborhood fine dining. That's an aggressive term. But the fun part was the bar. It was like a speakeasy. The building was on a sloped piece of property. So if you came in the front of the building, you were in the restaurant. If you came in the back of the building, you were in the bar area. The bar backed up to the railroad tracks in my town. We were the only place in town that had direct access to tracks. So we built a giant deck. Everybody in my city loves trains. We have like 35, 40 trains, big, long freight trains that go through every day. So we would do fun things like in a bar, when you open something alcoholic, it has a shelf life. So before when it's close to expiring, instead of pouring it down the drain, we would offer $2 shots. So every time a train went by, you could you blow the whistle and claim a $2 shot of whatever we were trying to get rid of. And so I'm all about having fun, and that was an outlet for me. I will someday, I think, maybe do another kind of coffee shop neighborhood place, but only when I'm fully retired. I did all of this while I was also still working, which is why I think I have white hair. That and my children, that's why I have white hair, right? But thank you for asking. It was a very fun diversion from all this serious work that I do all the time. But.
All right, so you have a question.
A main focus in our class so far we've talked a lot about traffic fatalities, particularly in the U.S. And we've noticed, and Dr. Wong has especially emphasized, that there's been a generally downward trend in a lot of very wealthy nations of traffic fatalities. Now, the United States has not shared this pattern. What do you think are the primary reasons that this remains such a large issue in the U.S., that we haven't had the same kind of progress, and what do you think would be the best ways to move forward to address this issue?
Great.
Okay. Well, yeah, I have some international experience, so that's a good question. So, yeah, I think a big part of that is the disparate way in which we manage systems here in the U.S. A country like the UAE or Saudi Arabia, they're much more authoritative, for better or worse, but that enables them to
deploy and employ policies and systems that are more consistent across a region. And I think part of our challenge in this country is, you have the federal government, and then you have the states, and then you have a county and a city and a local jurisdiction. And oftentimes there are disparate systems between those and different policies around whether it's speed limits or safety devices or design treatments, all those kinds of things that can be different from region to region or area to area. And so you might see varying levels of success because of that. Whereas in some of these other countries that have more, one size fits all type thing, they're able to find those solutions and quickly implement them and have them broad based. At least that's one person's opinion.
And I think another small piece of it is that I think we have more different kinds of infrastructure users. So when you think about pedestrians and people who ride scooters and people who are riding regular bikes and e-bikes, and then cars and trucks and buses and so many, it's very challenging to design your systems to be responsive to all of those different users. And you end up with conflicts, you end up with, I have to favor this one versus that, that part of the traffic stream. So I think it lends itself to also being perhaps a little confusing to the road user, the motorist, who maybe is driving an older car and doesn't have all of the, automated devices that warn them when there's a problem ahead, where they're following too close, whatever. There are a lot of much older vehicles in our traffic streams that don't have that technology, or people who turn the technology off for whatever reason. So I think that combination of a lot of different types of users, road users, street users, and places that I've traveled, in many places where there are still a lot of vehicles, as opposed to people who've now shifted to transit as their primary mode, the age of the fleet tends to be much younger. So many more people have technology in hand, and they use the technology. So I think there are some human reasons why our fatality rate is not dropping the way other places. It was much lower 10 years ago. I think it was 10,000 people a year lower, and everybody thought, well, as soon as all these vehicles are automated, it's going to drop even lower, and it went up. And there are a long list of reasons why, but some of it is, even when you're using technology, you're supposed to pay attention. It's not 100% under any circumstances right now, and people don't know.
Any other questions? We have about 5 minutes, that's a 5 minutes opportunity, okay? Yeah. Maybe you can pass the microphone to him to see if that will work. Adjust the angle, I think it will work.
This is just a question for Bruce. I know since you have international experience, are there any international perspectives on transportation that either stuck with you or you think that would be useful for us to know about?
Well, let's see. Again, going back to what, when I came up in the industry and I was working in the Northwest, I worked a little bit in California, I had a very narrow perspective. And having that opportunity to go abroad and learn from so many different cultures and perspectives is just so useful. Nothing pops right to mind, but it's just, the design, some of the design characteristics of the UK are found particularly in the UAE, since it was colonized from the UK. So just a lot of different features around how they manage traffic in the UK. I learned over there a lot of Asian perspective as well, like a lot of technology that was imported from like Singapore and countries like that, where they really tried to emulate how to digitize their system in a way that those Asian networks are. But no, I think just collaborating with so many people from so many different cultures just opened my eyes to the different perspectives and just how people learn and relate their own experience has been really important. And I think it's something that now in today's world, it's so much easier to do. I think, and then when I was growing up, when we first started that office, Teams was just, it was actually Skype. We were using Skype all the time. And the bandwidth was a challenge and communicating was a challenge. Now, you can pick up Teams and talk to somebody in Japan or anywhere in the world and like that. And so you're face to face. And so the opportunity to learn from others abroad or in other markets is so much easier. And I strongly encourage you to do that and to try to make those contacts and do that through organizations, do that through, volunteer. Those kinds of things make it easy to connect with those kind of people.
I have a question for you. So do you know how many countries ASCE has members in? Anybody want to take a guess?
That's a good question.
217.
Well, there aren't quite that many countries. but you're darn close. We're in 177 countries.
No.
So if you are looking for an answer and you want an international perspective, and you're an ASCE member, you can go into the ASCE directory on Collaborate, and you can just search by country, and you can pull up an ASCE member. And I'm pretty sure that the overwhelming majority of ASCE members will be happy to answer your question if you reach out to them. So
no, that's great.
we have almost 170,000 members, and you need to be part of the family if you're not already. I'm just saying.
Yeah, more important, that's free, right? So for students.
It's free, yeah.
Yeah, so now is the time for the last question. Anybody want to take the opportunity? If not, I would ask this question. What are your expectations to this generation for the students for the most important skills they need to have in the coming 5 years?
You first?
I go first? Okay.
Quick answer. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be really quick. Yeah, because these two women have much more to say and are better suited for that. I would say, being curious, being a lifelong learner, being adaptable, and being connected with people. Those are the three traits that I just found so invaluable in my career, and I don't see that changing, particularly in a rapidly changing industry and landscape. Just really being curious, always learning, always seeking other people's opinion, connected to them, and be confident. Again, like Marcia said, be very confident in what you're doing. And I would say those, like I said, I read something where you guys are going to reinvent your career 7 times over the life of your career. That just blows me away, but it's likely to happen. So because there's so much change, so just be adaptable.
My advice would be to ask those questions: who, what, why, when, where, and how. And if you can't answer every single one of those to your satisfaction, just keep asking. Ask anybody. Ask your professor, ask your roommate, ask your wife, ask your boyfriend. Just keep asking, and until you get the right answer, until you get the answer that makes you comfortable, that, oh yeah, that actually sounds like truth, canonical truth. Now I can go on to the next question that I had. If you're not pursuing those 5 questions, you're really shortchanging yourself. And if you can get those answers, you start looking around and saying, who can I share this information with? Because I did all this research. Maybe I can put it into a canonical object and embed it, and vectorize it, and make some money off of it. All right? You've got so much power. Use it.
All right, I'll be a little bit more practical for the near term, because you're all going to get there. It's just going to take a little time to get there, because it's stuff you got to learn to do. What I would say is, whatever your area of interest is, do a little digging. So if you're a transportation engineer, look at the Transportation Development Institute website and see what's going on. Subscribe to their newsletter, or of course, I can also promote ITE because it's another great organization. Find your expert organization or family, and poke around in there. See what because transportation sounds like a thing, but transportation's a lot of different things. So poke around within it and find the part that really speaks to you, the part that appeals to you. You know, what I've enjoyed doing over my career, and I only made, I think, 4 big pivots. I don't think I made 7, but I think I made 4 big pivots by the definition that you're using. But, you know, it's because I picked my head up. You know, I wasn't always heads down. I picked my head up and I looked around beyond the work that I was doing to kind of think about, experience, learn about what others thought were interesting and important, to see if there was something that I was now curious about, and I wanted to chase that thread, and and keep learning. I love to learn. So I'm afraid if I stop, I'm going to get old. You know?
All right, so our PacTrans Leadership Development Seminar and Webinar is coming to its end. Let's give our speakers a big round of applause. I also appreciate everybody who come to attend this event. There are people from outside University of Washington as well. So our speakers will be around. We have the cafe, drink, and refreshments at the back row, so you could still keep talking with them. And also, Marsha will be talking to the University of Washington ASE student chapter right after this at around 3. If you're interested, you can join. You will be talking to your student chapter tomorrow. I forgot the exact time, but you can ask PacTrans. And also, the IT CEO is also coming to campus, but it's the end of, I think it's the Safe Mobility Conference. He's a speaker. If you want to talk to him, you could also talk. So that's the opportunity, and the PacTrans help to create.